Hello, everyone. Welcome back, friends. Another edition of Let's Talk. And man, am I excited about today. I mean, we have the Brady Bunch here with so many screens up. For those of you who are as old as I am, and you can enjoy Marsha, this is fun times. If you're not old enough, man, get on TV, the Me TV or whatever, and check out some old episodes. But this is fun stuff. Um, and I am going to let my guests introduce themselves, and then we'll go from there and tell you what we're getting into today. So, Lenny, I'll let you lead off, my brother.
Oh, thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. I'm Lenny Romano. I am the health and physical education instructor here at the college, and I'm really happy to be with all of y'all.
My name is Jamie Rodas, and I'm the Recruitment and Retention Coordinator in the CCR department, which is College and Career Readiness.
I am Michelle Moran. I'm an academic success coach in the Academic Support Center.
Don't be shy, Nathan.
All right. I'm Nathan Stout. I'm one of the academic advisors here at the college, part of the counseling department.
And I'm Amanda Adamakis, also one of the academic advisors in student services and part of the counseling department.
And I'm Gary Boucher. I'm Vice President for Students.
What a great gathering of individuals to represent some of the wonderful people on our campus, because we got faculty represented, the academic support folks represented, leadership represented, college and career readiness represented, and those are some big players on our campus. So we are going to put our thoughts together and share them. This is the 6th edition this year of Let's Talk. Probably will be the last installment. We've been looking at the global pandemic, talking about how to manage positive mental health through very difficult, stressful, challenging times. We've talked about adversity and what that's brought in the last couple of years, vulnerability, gratitude. Very important to practice gratitude during times. We've talked about fears and anxiety, setting goals. Again, when your life is disrupted and you start putting off goals, it's important to get back in there and realize that you still do have some power and control in your life, and you can still set goals and try to achieve those goals, because that builds character as well as bring positive things to fruition. Today, we're going to talk about surviving and thriving, kind of the similarities, but also the differences, and how thriving is something that we want to set our sights on and learn how to thrive after we survive something. So what's going to kind of start today is we want to reflect on, since we have different people who work with students in different ways, is ask our panel, what were some of the major challenges that our students had to survive during the past 2 years? Again, faculty works with students from a different lens: academic support, college career readiness, leadership, advising, counseling. We see through different lenses. We get students in different places, but I'm sure we've all seen some common things. So in a round robin kind of format, just kind of chirp in and talk about what have been some of the challenges. And one of the first ones I'll say academically, just to kind of kick it off, is when students had to go from seated to online. That was a major challenge. All right, so round robin, pitch in. I'm making a list.
All right. Well, the biggest thing is, COVID upended 20 million students worldwide, at least in the United States, and it's really amplified their social connections, their financial and personal stress, and I've really noticed it's taken a toll on the students' mental health. These students really have a higher rate of depression. And when I talk to the students, they say it really negatively is affecting their academic progress. One of the big things I noticed personally, not only with COVID, but as you mentioned when we talked earlier about the war that's going on over in Russia and Ukraine, students seem to have a decline in their resilience. And what I mean by that is they don't have the same ability to bounce back from negative experiences as they used to, in my observation. Many are coming back with a lot of family and community stress, And, it's the first time in my career that I've actually seen a lot of issues, mental issues that the students are having. I think it's different when I was young. Mental health, a lot of people kept it to themselves. For males, it was almost like a sign of weakness. But now, can be a good thing, I see students really coming out and talking about it more. You can see their emotions, you can see their feelings. I've had students in class that have had panic attacks, and it's surely not because of the health and PE lessons that I'm teaching, because we try to have a lot of discussions and a lot of good breakthrough engagement, but their personal experiences from home has really impacted them a great deal, and I've never seen a panic attack up close. And just within this last 6 months, I've seen 3 in the classroom, 2 of which we've had to call an ambulance. And to me, that's pretty significant. And it's just, it's really it's a very trying time for all of us. And, that's major challenges that I see, within my classes.
Well, and to add to that, I feel like we've really seen so much uncertainty in the future, and I think that has really affected students because, I mean, and adults too, but they don't have necessarily the maturity, the coping skills to handle what if, and to not go down really negative rabbit holes that I feel have been really just very common. And then, of course, a feeling of isolation, not being with peers, not having face-to-face relationships. And part of that isn't just the pandemic and the things that we've been going through. I do think technology plays a big role in that. But, but still, this heavy, burden of uncertainty. And a lot of our students, and I know all of our students, not just my department, but around the campus, there's a lot of financial insecurity. We have food insecurities. Students, I'm so grateful that we have a community here where we can constantly say, okay, I tell every student that I advise, no matter what they sound like, look like, smell like, whatever, that we have a lot of resources here. So if you ever find yourself in need of shelter, clothing, food, the basic needs, counseling, if I can't help you personally, I know someone who can. And even sometimes if I feel like I'm not sure who that is, I know I have the resources here at Craven Community College to find them the help that they need. But I just feel like the biggest thing for my students, or for our students right now, is really this uncertainty. It's very scary.
I agree with that, with the uncertainty. That's what I'm seeing in a lot of my students. Actually, a big group of mine, I'd say at least 8, are dealing with grief and loss, and trying to manage school with those emotions has been incredibly difficult. And then a lot of them also are having different roles within their families. That's created a lot of overwhelming stress. A lot of them come in here just to cry and talk to me about how overwhelmed they feel with the emotions they're feeling, not sure how to handle it. Some of them have taken on parent roles in their homes because their parents have gotten so sick from COVID that they aren't able to function anymore. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of that uncertainty, not really knowing what the future means for these students anymore, and trying to navigate their way through it.
Michelle, if I can just pick your brain a little more on that.
Yeah.
The themes of grief and loss. I mean, we've talked to the students over here as well. And as you mentioned, it could be, we talk about grieving the loss of a job.
Absolutely.
Grieving the loss of having a permanent schedule in place where your children are going to school and you're going to work,
Yes.
and there's no disruptions. And so we're grieving the loss of the stability that we had. You mentioned, we've talked about, the food insecurity, financial insecurity, grieving the loss of that. I mean, that's something that some people, when you're living paycheck to paycheck and that gets disrupted, that's certainly something
Absolutely.
that makes a difference. And then really the heavy one is that I know we've all talked to people who did lose loved ones to COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
we grieving the loss of a parent, grandparent, spouse, aunts, uncles, friends. We saw that in talking with students several times. So grieving really does capture a lot of different forms of loss.
Hmm. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think, that everything that's been said so far as the grief that our students face, but even aside from COVID, I mean, we've had students that couldn't attend funerals for loved ones, or they couldn't do the things they normally do because of social distancing and trying to protect their loved ones. And another thing that I'm seeing a lot of students take on is uh, students that are just coming out of high school that are taking more non-traditional roles. They're almost coming in as like non-traditional students. They're working 40 plus hours a week because they're helping to support their families because of the financial insecurities, and they're trying to balance that with the course load and trying to still achieve their dreams, but yet still live in this reality of having to work and support their families.
I like to talk a little bit from a leadership standpoint. You know, I'm not involved with students as much as the panel is, on a day-to-day basis, but, you know, I have more gray hair because of the pandemic. I can tell you that. From a leadership standpoint, supporting the faculty and staff with what they need to be able to support students has been a challenge in general, especially in an environment which is so fluid. I mean, I would literally be speaking to individuals, leaders at all different levels, saying one thing and saying, all right, this is the direction we're going to go, and let's pass the message and let's tell students this. And then all of a sudden, a little less than 24 hours later, I'm changing that direction because of new information that came from global leadership, national leadership, state leadership, and that flip-flopping, that instability, was felt from all levels, including students, throughout this experience. And what interested me most was that in the beginning, if you think about change is not easy. And we mentioned maturity levels. We mentioned, the ability to cope, etc. Everybody deals with that in different ways. They look at threats in different ways and have different tolerances. And when you're working with such a diverse group of staff, faculty, and students, how do you create a system where people's tolerance to threats and concerns are met, especially in such a fluid, changing environment? And that was a real challenge. And in the beginning, everybody was like, "Oh no, what do we do?" A lot of panic. How do we do it? I believe that, in my opinion, Craven specifically looked at it and said, "Okay, we're going to do something. We've got to do something. Let's make it happen, and let's try to minimize the change to the best of our ability." And then we got back into a pattern. But as we started coming back out of that pattern and things, are we loosening up or are we not? All of a sudden that change occurred again. And what I saw in students was really interesting. I look at it from a generational standpoint because older generation students, and I'll use it as an example, you come into work sick. I was always told, suck it up, get to work, go to school, don't stay home if you're sick. But we were changing that and saying, hey, if you're not feeling well, go home. Don't come to work. And so for an older student, you have to deal with that major change of changing 30, 40, 50 years of behavioral habit. And our younger students, they're told, in high schools and wherever they're coming from for the past 2 years, go home when you're sick, do this, do that. And so they were more guarded. And as we started coming out of things, they were less likely to get rid of certain things or change in that regard, while some of the older generations were very frustrated, and they expressed their frustration because they wanted to move on or finish or whatever it may be. So that roller coaster of emotion and how we as administrators, as teachers, as just individuals in general living through it, how do you handle that? And how do you build a stable environment where people can come together with different backgrounds, different thoughts, etc., and still feel comfortable to live and meet their goals in education specifically. And so that was a real challenge. And I know each of us have dealt with that in different perspectives. And I think in general dealt with it well, but we're still not out of it. We're still dealing with, that risk tolerance, that emotion that's behind it, etc. So that's kind of what I saw. You had to be very calm and very patient and willing to move fluid throughout the experience in general.
All right, so let me do some summarization here and put these thoughts together, because our question was, what were the major challenges that our students, faculty, and staff really had to deal with over the past couple years? Obviously, students, the older students that Gary was talking about, those in my generation are around there. I don't know if anybody as old as I am, but the technology, right? When you're used to having seated classes and you have to now pivot and take these online classes, and you have to be able to know how to manage Moodle and all the different platforms, that Cengage and all these weird names for things that classes use. That's not easy to adjust to those types of things. So academically, there were certain things. And then, of course, when you're home now and your kids are home all the time and you're used to having the ability to do homework when you're at home and have some quiet time, and your kids are always there, and everybody's in the house now. So being able to carve out time to do the homework needed for classes was challenging too. So academically, certainly, there were a lot of challenges. Then more on the levels of personal, psychological, social, all of that is true. The financial stressors, the anxiety of job security, the anxiety of making ends meet, and then the loss issues, not being able to maybe go and see people who were sick or dying, going to funerals, being able to bring closure to those types of things. So, and again, the existential uncertainty that we were talking about is, what does this all mean? Where are we going? How long does this last? Is there going to ever be a new normal that we all recognize and feel comfortable with? So just those anxieties. And on a light note, so Lenny, yeah, there's a thing called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. So there's like BAD, which is bipolar affective disorder, and GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder. Well, there was a new one that got created in the beginning of the pandemic, the TPAD, which was the toilet paper anxiety disorder. I think they added that one to the DSM-5 because that one really caused some panic for me there for a while. But we were able to adjust and move forward. Able to pivot. But I'm from West Virginia, so's Nathan. So we know corn cobs are a good second go to if you need to. So identifying all these things, now let's move into a direction of in your areas, whether you're faculty, staff, the way that you work with students, what types of interventions and resources did your teams develop and use to assist the students that were coming to you with all these issues, with all these challenges, with all these struggles? What were some things that were created in your departments? And then how did you help them stay engaged with their academics, with their goals, and just, the day in, day out of trying to make it meet? So Lenny, we'll start with you.
For me, it's been like a threefold process. The first thing I try to do is I connect institutional support in my class by bringing in the counseling department, which Bill and Nathan came in and not only talked to the students about all the resources that they provide, but also taught a lesson on mental health, which correlated with my lessons that I'm teaching on mental health. Also bringing in the academic support center individuals to talk about test-taking anxiety, talking a little bit about study skills and things like that, trying to use the resources that we have at our disposal is in making those connections, making those types of collaborations with each other. What was one of the biggest and best things that I feel we have done, because as Gary mentioned, we working together, creating a community inside of a community, and that's what Craven does. And then the second fold of that is I had to try to shift my teaching style to make more personal connections. I try to talk about my own struggles with the uncertainties, as y'all mentioned earlier. Talk about encountering surprises of, it seems like every day there's a new challenge happening, talking about how it's affecting me personally. And we definitely have more engagement in my class, more discussions, more meaningful discussions. And a lot of times it does get off content, at least that's what they think. But really, it's when you have these deep, meaningful discussions, it is bringing out and learning how to cope with mental health, because we're actually physically doing it. Because each student brings their own past experiences and language, stories, their cultural assets, and all of that enables more meaningful learning for themselves and everybody in the class. So having these types of discussions, engaging activities and things that we do together, our classes have become very close with one another. A lot of them are friends outside of the class. A lot of them share things with each other and within our class. It's almost like it's somebody that it's a place that they can feel safe. So that was my second fold that I try to help with the students. And then lastly, there's what I noticed is, if you look at studies, a lot of studies, and obviously, this is what I do for a living, so I'm a little, feel strongly about it. But a person's health, a lot of things that can help with that is exercise, is eating healthy, is sleeping, getting enough sleep. And as you mentioned before about students working, I've had many students that are working 60 hours a week and then taking 5 classes. And I don't know how they do that. But the third thing that I try to do is I started a fitness club for the college. It's called Craven Fitness, which I thought was kind of cool on words. But just to start off, we needed 6 people to start the club. And I had a couple military veterans, and they're in their early 20s, but have been through a lot. And just by talking to them and my classes about it, we need 6 people to start the club. And as of right now, we have 30, and we're not even really started yet. We haven't put it out there yet. That's just by word of mouth. So I think there's a big need for that. Students want to have that social connection, to meet new friends, to meet new people, to network. They also have a need for releasing some of this anxiety and stress and depression, whether it's through taking walks together or having some fitness or going to the weight room or planning activities. So those 3 things are the major things that I try to do for the students. And, it's not only helped them, it's helped me. I feel like that it's very therapeutic. And it's also, it's really brought me closer to a lot of faculty around campus, because working with some of you that I have had the privilege of working with, it makes me feel like, yes, I have somebody I know I can go to if I have a problem, if a student has a problem. And it's great to feel that community type family presence everywhere you can go.
Well, and in CCR, one of the things that we have done is we really try to stay in constant communication with the students. Just if it's, I send text messages, whether it's congratulations on how, improving a score, or I haven't heard from you in a while, just checking in. It's good. And I take a lot of notes. I really try my best to, because we have, a couple hundred students. So, but it's really helpful to honestly and genuinely get to know them and become authentically a relationship with them. So I think reaching out and having constant communication has been important. Another thing that I think the uncertainty has caused, at least in part of our population, is a lack of motivation. Because, you know, students are like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. So is it even worth me doing X, Y, or Z? So, in a bit of an effort to try to create more connection between them and to applaud and give them incentive, we've been giving awards for students that have good attendance. So, and we do it publicly. We like call them out in front of their class and we give them a gift card to Panda Express or Chick-fil-A, or I got a lot of different restaurants that donated to us. And so it's a way to celebrate them, to create some sense of camaraderie and maybe even a little bit of competition. Friendly competition's not bad, but, and then to help keep them incentivized. And knowing that they need, a lot of our students are food insecure, that was a way to sort of combat that problem as well as give them motivation. So it was very multi-layered, but it was very simple. And we've gotten so much good feedback about from the students about how much they appreciate this, and the teachers make a big deal of it. So we've tried that as well as another way to sort of just reach out and let them know that we really do care about their success. And then, you know, I think ultimately I'm just, again, I'm very grateful for the resources that we have, because we have referred several students to the food pantry, many to the counseling center. Bill even helped a student get with Promise Place because she was in a bad situation at home. So it's really a matter of, I think the biggest thing is connection. That has to be the fundamental, you know, bridge that makes our students feel like they are part of this family.
I definitely agree with that. Here in the ASC and as academic success coaches, we are promoting big time just an open door policy. And we have that on our door, just come in. We don't care what's going on, just come in. And it's been working great. We actually had a line of 4 students to come in and see me on Monday, which was fantastic. They just wanted to come in and talk. It's the little things we do to make sure they know someone cares about them, someone's rooting for them, supporting them, encouraging them. We're really working on creating workshops for anxiety to try and help students thinking out of the box. We've decided to start an art night for students as an outlet. Just really trying to reach students however we can. I definitely agree connection is huge. We utilize any resource we can on campus when we talk to students, and it's the same off campus. We talk to them about resources outside in the community as well. We're trying to work on, with Bill, trying to start a support group for students to talk and really get some encouragement. I found in a lot of our students that are on probation, and then the alert contacts that we do, a lot is over the phone. And a lot of them are saying they need help and they need connection, and they're very emotional and just feel very isolated. And after being isolated for so long, it's become really difficult to help them make those adjustments to make connections with other students. And we know they'll be more successful on campus if they are making connections with other students. So I think a big part of it is utilizing whatever you can with connections on campus and all the resources available. And we're definitely big advocates of that. So our job is pretty much, we tell students when we call them, we're here to support them, encourage them, and we're here to find them whatever resource they're needing. We're their go-to contact to get them whatever they're needing. So I definitely am seeing that's making a big difference for students.
I know with with like a Viso, with all the alerts and stuff like that, I think that's just been a great platform, because with the instructors submitting those alerts, Michelle, you know, if your team reaching out to them, if not, then we contact them. A lot of times, you know, if a student is missing a lot of assignments. And then once you talk to them, you see that uh, the bigger issue behind those concerns. Whether it is the work schedule, or they're dealing with other emotional stressors, or sometimes, I mean, and this has been a big thing with the pandemic, even like of internet, like of those type of resources, and being able to provide those things. I know, like I said, the food pantry, the computers, and other resources that we provide the students during when COVID first started, and we continue to provide today. The HERF funding that we've received for COVID-19, that has been a great resource, and a game changer for a lot of individuals to help with their financial insecurities as well.
I would agree with pretty much everything that's been said. I think a big thing that I've seen in talking with students is that they're not necessarily aware that they can talk to us about everything else that's going on in their lives. Sometimes they just think it's strictly about, their grades or what classes they want to take next semester. But it's so important, like others have mentioned, to have that communication and get to know the complete picture of what's going on in their lives so that we can best help them. Things that I've been trying to utilize are talking to them about goal setting and breaking things down into smaller, more manageable tasks, because things can seem so overwhelming. And then also helping with different techniques to manage anxiety and stress that's been very high over the past several years. And, working with them on time management and just how to balance everything. Our students have so many things going on, so just offering that safe space to be able to talk to them about what's going on, and then trying to create a plan to help them.
It's interesting everything you brought up, and I agree 100% and appreciate your hard work with students. One of the things that I refer back to my counseling days that was a powerful tool for me when you are living in an environment of uncertainty is listening to individuals, really hear where they're coming from. And because when you're uncertain and you've lost hope, I have found that individuals, they can take on a victim mentality. Woe is me, I can't do anything, I'm stuck. I might as well not, go to school, et cetera, et cetera. And what I have found is in listening to individuals, you provide them the empowerment moment. Okay, here are the cards on the table. Here's where we're at. What are steps that you can take, that you can do to move yourself forward? And whether it was, leadership, faculty or staff throughout, and students throughout this, great ideas came up. Great ideas of how to make us safer, how to provide support services, how to communicate. And really, that came from all of us who are interacting with students. And what I found was, as you just mentioned, communication increased. Faculty and staff saw that students felt isolated. So how do we increase the communication? I saw more than ever mentoring, right? I saw individuals taking people under their wing and saying, hey, it's more than just a 50-minute class, of me teaching the subject matter. Now it's me making sure that I get the information to them, they learn, but I also want to look at them holistically. Where are they holistically? And then us building the supplemental resources, as Nathan mentioned, to provide those needs to students, whether it's financial, whether it's academic, support and tutoring, whether it's working with RCS and finding a place to stay, or mental health partners. But it all came from and stemmed back from, as I mentioned earlier, being calm, listening to the issues, understanding the issues, empowering people to really come up with the ideas that are needed to help people. And in all your information you provide today, I mean, you've addressed all that in your own ways based on your experiences. And once again, I applaud all of us, including students, of being part of the team, because without them taking that chance with us, or saying, hey, I can do something, we would have hundreds of students dropping out, and that's not the case. I think we've had many successful stories. We've had those who have, but they usually come back because we know we're a foundation in the community. And I get to tip my hats off to everyone.
So, what we've done today is really display all the different things that go on campus, all the different departments, all the different individuals, all the planning, strategic hiring of people, and man, we've got some super rock stars on faculty, staff that have experience but have that motivation, heart, will to provide the types of energy that it takes to promote positive mental health, and we're just very fortunate in that way. In listening to faculty and staff that I've met in my journey here at Craven, came up with I don't want it to sound cheesy, but it's an acronym that I really believe matters, and that it's LOVE. It's LOVE, and I've seen our faculty and staff provide this. L meaning the listen part, and we've all just said how important listening is. Hearing's one thing, but listening's another. You can hear people talk, but when you listen to people talk, you're in the moment with them, and they know that you are processing what they were telling you, and it makes a difference when they know that you are with them in a very real way. And I think our faculty and staff do that. The O in LOVE is being objective, and that means non-judgmental. We know that sometimes it's easy to dismiss people by saying, oh, just as Gary said earlier, suck it up. We're all going to get through it. It's tough. Yeah, but you got to rise to the occasion. Don't worry about it, or, just stay busy, those types of things. So, or telling them, don't do that. That's silly. That's stupid. Being objective, again, just means saying, I hear where you're at. I hear what you're saying. You're a different individual with different cultural backgrounds, different resources at hand, and I'm not going to judge, where you're at and what brought you to this point. The V is to validate, and when we say validating, it's to say, I hear you and I feel that, and yeah, what you're dealing with is real and it is difficult. But at the same time, where the E comes in is the encouragement, is to say, but look at some of the resources that you've used in the past, and look what you've overcome. Look at what you've been able to do to get to this point. And now you're kind of up against another obstacle. But look at the resources you've used in the past. Look at your character and the strength that have gotten you through other difficult times. And we continue to encourage and to help validate who they are, what their goals are, and the empowerment that actually can exist. So I think that's kind of the pillars that we all come from. And when I say all, not just all on this panel, but many other faculty and staff that are on this campus kind of come from that. Which kind of leads us into surviving to thriving, and what the really point we want to make in this today. Again, we don't know who exactly tunes in and listens to the Let's Talk series episodes and all that, but those who do, we want to bring information. You've heard a lot of information today of what's on campus, and I've learned some things. Like, I'm going to join Lenny's fitness group. I'm craving some fitness, Lenny. I'm craving.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds good.
And whenever I need a moment of positivity, encouragement, and validation, I'm heading over to the academic success coaches, and I'm going to let them just shower me with all kinds of optimism. So, but the thriving part, right? So surviving. What we know is that during the first part of the pandemic is a lot of us were just surviving, because it's like, hang on, because we don't know what's happening next. When's the next shoe going to drop? What else closes down? How bad is this going to be? Lots of people are dying. Lots of things are changing. And we're just kind of in survival mode, trying to figure it all out. And I can only imagine what the Ukrainian people are feeling right now with just trying to survive at this moment in time, with everything in their lives turned upside down, and everything that they knew as normal and safe and things in their lives that gave them joy and pleasure and motivation just kind of gone. So they're surviving right now. But the thriving part is when we kind of get beyond that surviving and we come on the other side of it with living and thinking and believing with that positivity, that purpose, that intentionality. And you mentioned earlier the students as part of this team. And we have work study students over here. You see students in the classroom, students in your departments. You see those students who are thriving, who take their peers under their wings and encourage their peers and say, come on, let's go do this. And come on, let's go do that. And I think we have many staff, faculty, and students who are now thriving in that resilience lending that you talked about before. That is an issue. And because of, I think, a lot of the supports that we put in place, I hope that we can get that resiliency factor restored in many of our students to give them that hope and belief and empowerment that there is a lot to accomplish. So I kind of, at this point, if anybody kind of has a student, and we'll protect their names and all that, but just an example that kind of personifies somebody's resilience that you've seen over the past couple of years that you were working with, some of the accomplishments. I know this graduation ceremony is going to be huge because it is, all our degrees, not everybody finishes in 2 years, right? I mean, it's very difficult for people to finish in 2 years, but we're coming up on, kind of 2 years of the pandemic. We're coming back to our more traditional graduation ceremony that's going to be awesome to return to. But have you, does anybody want to share just a quick brief story of somebody who's been resilient and who has thrived and they're seen a lot of accomplishments in the last couple of years?
I'll share about a student. It's not a really dramatic story or anything, but it just is real. We had, a lot of our students are minors. The dropout rate in the high schools has been higher lately because of COVID, I believe. And we have seen more minors come through our program who are 16 at minimum. But we had one student who recently went through our program, and he really struggled with some mental health issues, I think even prior to COVID, but then on top of everything else and coming away from a school environment and moving into a small class college environment was very different for him. And he really struggled in the beginning. And, we talked, and he decided to take a break. And that was not necessarily something that we discouraged. You hate to see somebody like put their goals on hold, but you also have to look at, again, the whole picture. And his health was more important in that moment. And we just reminded him, we're not going anywhere. We're here. So when you're feeling that you can handle these challenges, the challenges of academics and stuff, we're not going anywhere. So we've got you. And we did keep in contact with him. And he did come back probably about 4 or 5 months later. And he recently graduated, and he is participating in the graduation. And he was taken over to workforce development. He wanted to go into, I think it was welding or sheet metal. Maybe that's the same thing. I don't even know. But I recall taking him over to workforce development and handing him off. And he got his class. He gets a free class for completing our program. And it was just so, and he really changed. He became the young man in that time, like a really a different person, much stronger, much more willing to have to talk. Because in the beginning, it was like pulling teeth, trying to get anything out of him. And, we talked to his parents, because whenever we're dealing with a minor, we're dealing with their parents as well. But it was a story that we didn't know would be a success story, but it was. And it was just so great to see him and to have that final advising session with him, just to talk about all he's accomplished and all he's been through at such a young age. And now he's just got the whole world in front of him, and he can do it. And I think he believes that he can now.
Hey, Bill, I just want to throw this out there, and maybe not one particular person, but the impact of the college just in the community itself. I get the honor every day to work with different businesses and organizations. And prior to being in the position I am, I was a counselor for a good 5, 6, 7 years, and I worked with students and helping them achieve their academic goals. And as was alluded, people drop in and drop out. But been here long enough that nowadays I walk through these companies and I'm walking through and I'm seeing, Jane over here leading a whole division. And I'm like, I remember when you came in and you were crying on my desk and you had no idea what you wanted to do. And now you're running a whole division of a Fortune 500 company. And you're like, that is so cool. You have another gentleman who was incarcerated. I work a lot with those individuals that are coming out of jail. Spent a considerable amount of time, went through some of our training, and now is running his own company, maintenance lawn company. Making, and I don't know if you hired a lawn person lately, but they make some pretty solid money. They work hard, but they make some pretty solid company. And what's wonderful about what we do is that individuals come to us, they invest their education, we invest in them, and then they go out, and there's so many wonderful examples of our individual students who are true leaders and workers in this community. And I get the privilege of seeing that because I get out and about in the community. And it's all the hard work that our staff and faculty do in so many different ways. And obviously our students do because they invest themselves. But it's just awesome. And then you're right, that graduation is the zenith. And I think every student, when they come in, should watch a video of graduation. And we should say, that's you. You can do this. You can do this. Because when they do, it's a sense of accomplishment, and it just pole vaults them further to want to achieve.
And if I can just throw in, Gary, one of the things that we have done in our department is we have a large TV in our, lobby area. And we've started asking students upon completion, can we take a photo of you? And I had a girl in last week who went to high school with my daughter. So she's only 19, but she has a 3-year-old daughter, and she brought her daughter in with her when she was getting her coming to meet with me. And I said, I would love if you would put your daughter in this picture. So the TV screen, we do a PowerPoint presentation, and I update it with the student's picture, a couple of little fun messages about congrats, and then a little blurb about what they intend to do. And I was so excited that she brought her daughter, because I said I would love to have her in this photo, because I would love for other students, young moms, older moms, whatever, dads raising kids, to see that anybody can do this. It might take time, it might take a lot of balance and some juggling and a lot of support, but we've got your back. And I love the idea, like you were saying, a video graduation, because it helps them to have literally a visual. So we have students of all different backgrounds and wearing different clothes, and some have a hood on, and doesn't matter. They're going to see somebody they can relate to. And that, I think, is really helpful.
Yeah, I wish I had a better thriving story, but it starts off not so good, but it ends very well. Fortunately, one night I have my emails on my phone. So fortunately, one night I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I get an email. I can tell it's my school email because it has a certain ding. I look it up, and the student was contemplating suicide. And at first, I thought, "Oh my gosh, how can I? What am I supposed to do?" So I contacted my administrator, my dean, which told me to contact someone else. But within 30 minutes, they had a mobile therapist unit at this student's house with the administrators there, all looking out for her. The next day I came to school. The first thing I did is I emailed Bill, and within minutes they had Bill and another counselor, or another guidance counselor at another school. And this individual had so many people caring for her, showing her that she's worth something, showing her there is help here, there is resources here. And by working together, she has never missed a class since. She's doing 100% better. And it just goes to show that sometimes students just need, as we mentioned before, need positivity in their life as far as seeing the support that's there for them, seeing that people that they don't even know showing up in their house in 30 minutes to say, hey, we're here for you. So to me, that really hit home because, you know, it's one of those things where seeing everybody work together is just amazing. And it just didn't end there. That's the good part about what we have here at Craven and what the counseling department and all of you have. It just doesn't stop there. It's continued for this student. It continued where Bill would work with them, where the guidance counselor, another high school would work with them, where ASC would work with them, so it's not stopped. And that's the most impressive thing to me. And that's it makes me thrive. It makes me know that she's alive, she's doing well, so she's thriving. She's coming to school happy, smiling, doing well. And to me, I think that was a very successful situation that could have been a lot worse.
But it's always good to have our stories and share the stories to remind us that thriving is happening and going on. We are going to, this panel is going to go on next week and talk a little more about Craven Community College and what we do to support mental health. We're going to share that with rest of the colleges, all of the colleges in the state. The theme's going to be shelters, and we'll kind of end with that today, is that we live in a geographical area where we have to have shelters in place sometimes. The storms that come in the form of hurricanes and nor'easters and things like that, and we have to be prepared at any moment in time to have shelters in place to survive. And shelters provide that safety and that support and resources in our shelters to sustain us. And I think our point is that in a world that has lots of challenges right now, just in the daily grind, but then regionally, nationally, and globally, we have to have shelters in place on our campus. And it's not just one shelter, it's multiple shelters. And it takes a village, and it takes all of us to provide those safety nets, those resources, that positivity and encouragement. And I just appreciate this team, from leadership down to every possible place on campus. Even on the custodian staff, if you get to know them, there's so many positive people that come by your office every day, and it's just good to have them being positive too. So just across the board, that positivity is contagious, infectious, and I'm glad that it is. So thank you for sheltering with us today. Those of you that joined us or will join us at some point in time. I thank each of you on the panel for your talent, your resources, your time, what you do, what you will continue to do, the evolution of how we grow as professionals and individuals, and grow services that we provide in our departments and collectively as we collaborate together. So just an awesome thing, and I appreciate y'all. So
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, we're going to shut this one down, folks. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have a great week, and just continue to thrive, my friends.